Hey there, YouTubers and tuberettes. How are you? Greetings from lovely Las Cruces. Short talk in the trailer with an old guy. Just got back from a walk. And then I thought, got to do a couple of little errands real quick in the truck. And just got back from there. One of them was to pick up a quart of beer. It's about 5:45 or maybe it's 6 o'clock by now. Been a real slow Sunday. Did go down to church today, and boy, I'm glad I did. You know, I don't think I've ever done this, but I'm pretty sure if you search this algorithm, you can find a UPC in Las Cruces, New Mexico, just a series of sermons on YouTube. But I think over on Facebook you can see the entire worship service. There's probably a couple of University Presbyterians in that file, so you have to find the one that says Las Cruces on Wisconsin Avenue. Anyway, you know, it's funny, I've never actually recommended that someone go watch one of our services. And I thought, well, you know, there are people who can't get out to church for various reasons. There's people in, say, for instance, Muslim lands that if they try to go to church, they're going to probably lose their head. There's people in China that they want to go to church, but they're going to get arrested. And so, in other words, there's a lot of places where there's a lot of hostility against the church. And so I thought, well, you know, you could watch, and I thought it was a good example today. I liked the music. I thought it was appropriate. And, you know, it was kind of hearty, good singing, too. It wasn't old-time hymns, and it wasn't all super trendy new stuff either. But at any rate, I recommend, if you want to kind of sanctify or build up your faith, I mean, just hearing the Word of God proclaimed. It was a good, sober sermon by young Huff. And when he delivers, he does a good job. He's a good communicator. Excellent Bible author. I mean, a Bible scholar as well. But that's what a Presbyterian service is like. And so I've attended other churches off and on over the years, but I've actually come to really like this liturgical angle where you have an invocation. We're going to invoke God by name and ask him to be here present with us. We're going to have a public time of group prayer, however poorly executed that is. We're going to have a time of confession of sins, both privately and publicly, seeking forgiveness. We're going to have a time of extending peace physically to one another, touching and greeting by hand and say, God bless you. And in other words, there's at the end, there's the good word, bene dictus, the benediction, the good word as you leave. And of course the sermon, and we do the Lord's Supper week by week. But at any rate, I don't mean to brag, but what I mean is, it seems to be a full or healthy liturgy, biblical indeed, to me. And the songs we use, musical instruments and stuff like that. When you need to be built up in the faith, then that means you need to be hearing the Word. And it does good for you also if you're near others, humans that is, who believe with you in a similar way. Because iron sharpens iron, you build upon one another. I had an interesting walk this afternoon. I walked down to, there's a little park about a mile from here. And I want to say, yeah, it's for an apartment complex area. It's kind of recessed. You could easily drive by it and not even notice it. So I was just laying there in the shade, just, you know, listening to the wind blow through the trees. It's nice and relaxing. It wasn't a hot day, and I was in the shade. This woman comes ambling over, and I'm guessing she's strung out on some kind of drugs. Now, maybe you know what this is, but if you can imagine, like, really bad complexion, like splotchy brown spots all across the face. Has she been hit? Are those old bruises? I mean, what happened? And I'm wondering if there's maybe some drug that does that. But, I mean, her mind was whacked. She started talking to me, and I remember talking with a guy who years ago had experimented with LSD, and he was trying to explain to me what it was like. And it waxed rather irrelevant quickly. I mean, I couldn't even tell what she was talking about. And I told her as much. I said, whatever you said, I'm not even going to bother commenting on, except the parts that were especially explicit. But I said, I asked her point blank, I said, are you involved in the occult? Have you had any danglings in witchcraft or astrology or anything like that, any kind of occult presence? I said, how are you doing with drugs? Are you on drugs right now? And she couldn't answer the question, so I assumed the answer was yes and yes. But at any rate, poor young lady, I mean, I guess she's homeless. She came over and talked to me, and I have no idea what it was about. But it sounded almost like she was an alien. She was saying that she'd been sent down here, this is her job on the planet, to observe humans and determine whether they get to live or die. And I said, well, I think you're badly mixed up. That'd be Jesus Christ. You're just one of his creatures. You don't measure up. You can't do that job. It's not yours. They said, you're dreaming. And the last thing I said, look, I didn't come here to talk with you all day, and frankly, I don't understand a word you're saying. I said, I'll pray for you, that's for sure, but I can tell you right now, whatever drugs you're on, you need to get off it. You're going to have help. You ain't going to be able to do it on your own. But if you don't, your mind's getting ruined. Pretty soon you won't be able to come back no more. I knew a guy who using some kind of smack or some kind of mixture of drugs back in the early 70s, Steve Sanchez down the street, real good guy. But after he overloaded or overdosed on whatever he was on that one time, he was never the same after. He went from being a gregarious, funny kind of, he wasn't a troublemaker guy, but he loved practical jokes. And especially if something could go bang, if he could surprise somebody with a firecracker or something like that. He'd love stuff like that. And anyway, poor old Steve, after that episode, he just walked down the street going like this. Just come stone cold straight ahead, just kind of slowly walking down the street. Steve, how you doing? Wave at him from across the street. He might look over like this. And then just keep walking. You never say a word. Drugs will do that to you. But anyway, hey, I got a shout out for a young lady named Cindy today. Besides doing a little advertisement for the church and doing a little advertisement for crazy people in the park, young Cindy asked me whether I would talk about what it's like living in a trailer. And this trailer is kind of a weirdo, so it's not really necessarily a great example. But on the other hand, it might, just by sheer durability, qualify. This thing's a 1957 Liberty, I believe. I think that's what's on the title. I got the title in the back, like you'd have a title for a car. And in fact, you're supposed to have a license plate in the window. In fact, I do. Except the window's so dirty, I don't know if you can read it from outside. I don't remember if I've ever cleaned that window. I'm really a bad housekeeper. That's really one of the reasons I didn't want to show you around in here, because it's kind of like, my gosh, what happened in there? And I was like, was there a bomb? Was there an earthquake? It's like, no, Mike just cleaned up yesterday. So the way that it feels when I'm in a trailer is this. I tell people, because see, the walls are real thin on old trailers. I don't really know if modern ones are thicker or not, but the insulation value here is roughly nil. So in the wintertime, come late December, the cooler's working just fine. And right around July 4th, boy, if you want some heat, we got it out the wazoo. So what happens on a hot day, because it's got a metal roof up there, if it's 106 or 108 out there late June, and the cooler hadn't been on all day, I just forgot to turn it on the way out the door, I'll walk in here, it'll be about 118. I mean, seriously, wham, it's like a wall of heat. So first thing you do, I just turn on a swamp cooler, which is just a fan, and it runs water through pads, and so as the water's drawn through, it's an old style cooling. And it's called evaporative cooling. And so a lot of people here in the trailer park have instead, standard modern refrigerated cooling in the summer and just furnace heating. Modern trailers are not built like this. This had an old forced air furnace in there, noisy, bang, bang, bang when it runs, but I haven't been able to get it run for the last 2 years, and I'm too cheap to hire a mechanic to come in and fix it, because it's like, I don't want to spend like $1,000 in parts on a trailer that's worth, $1,100 total. I mean, I one time tried to sell this thing in the early 90s because I thought I was moving out to Texas, and it turned out that didn't work out. But the point is, the best offer I got at that time, and this was like in the 90s, was like $1,200 cash for the thing as is. That was it. $1,200. So I don't insure it either, because it's like, why would I pay insurance amount in a given year that exceed the value of the trailer? The thing I like about it It's that I've lived alone all these years. And to me, that's become normal. A lot of people have asked me the question over the years, well, don't you feel lonely? Well, hell yes, I do. So what? I'm human. What does that have to do with it? And I mean, if I wanted to have a second person in here, I mean, it could work. There would be enough room. You wouldn't probably necessarily assassinate each other, but it would feel uncomfortable. It would feel like you're always bumping into somebody, especially if you had a dog in here. And that's one of the reasons I don't keep a dog. I like dogs, but I'm not going to be bumping into an animal every 2 seconds in here. There's not enough floor space. I tell people, most people in modern big, custom homes have far more closet space available in their home than I do floor space. Do the math. I think the trailer's 43 or 44 feet long, 8 feet wide. 8 times 4 is 32. Add another 32. 300. How could that be? 350 square feet of floor space? That's dinky, man. And and it makes it feel crowded. I've brought in furniture in here, and there's this darn refrigerator in the kitchen taking up space, and then there's a table in the kitchen taking up even more space. So the problem is, and what you'll see is with older people, is the amount of stuff you want to keep. Now, if you're a big time keeper, if you're one of them people that want to acquire, shall we say, goods during this life, I've seen it before where married couples, when they're 22 or 24 or 27, they've been married a few years, and if they want to move, they can get a couple of friends together and put everything on a big rental truck, and whether it's going across town or across the country, it'll all fit on one truck, maybe tow on a little trailer or something like that. But by the time that same couple is in their 60s or early 70s, to move their stuff would take at least 2 complete moving vans. Packed to the hilt by professionals. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that accrues. And so what happens, of course, is lots of time older folks die, and their relatives have to come in and do like an estate sale. What are they going to do with 2 truckloads of furniture and stuff? So they sell it all at really rock bottom prices just to get rid of it. And but to the person who was keeping it, they never could let it go. So I'm aware of that same kind of sensation in me, but I try to keep it to a minimum. And one of the ways I do it is, let's face it, I don't have enough room to bring a great big old boom, boom, boom thing in here, like, say, a pool table, you know what I mean? Like, I'd spend a couple of grand on that anyway, sure, pal. But the point is that by virtue of having a small space, it naturally excludes the attractant quality of, hey, let's gather up more stuff. And I already collect too many books, I collect too many hand tools, I collect too many oddball items, plumbing items which might be usable someday. If I remember that I even have them around here. So, and I even hide stuff under the trailer at the end, little pieces of pipe. I've got part of an old lavatory under there in case I ever have a pedestal lavatory that I broke the pedestal on. I've got a replacement under the trailer. I mean, the pedestal. Why? I don't know. It's crazy. But what it's like here, I was just glad to have been in church. There's a different Sunday school. Our class does a Sunday school hour and a worship time. And I do like to go to both. And today I went to the one that's being run. It's been run for years up there. It's called Message in Your Emotions. And it's really a good, it's kind of close to a 12-step program idea of, everybody's got hurts, everybody's got hang-ups, everybody's dealing with stuff. And yet we're Christians. We've been called to be holy. And these can feel like they conflict sometimes. And so it's an honest discussion. You can get real in there. And so we had some good discussion in there. I'm glad it went. And then the thing I was just thinking on the way out of church today is I thought, I've been kind of pissing and moaning about I call us the Presbyterians, because it behooves us to be Presbyterian. Behooves. Nobody says behooves. Well, Presbyterians occasionally do, or they did until recently. But the model there, I mean, I've been kind of grumping about it because, in my opinion, they're not politically awake enough to realize that, well, wait a minute, if we really are in the end times, I mean, or very close thereunto, Wouldn't it be nice for the church as the mouthpiece of God to warn people in Jesus' name? Come out of her, that would be come out of Babylon, my people, lest you partake of her judgments, says the Lord. In other words, there may be big changes coming, people. You may have to have a zombie pickup and boogie bag. We don't know what's going to happen. But we're in the Lord's hands, and there's no reason to panic. But if it is indeed near the end, expect things to be dark, sinister even, and overcome with demonic energies. Now, getting back briefly to that woman, I didn't even ask her name, or I think I didn't. She gave me some zombie answer. I can't even remember what, it was like irrelevant. It had nothing to do with the question. It'd be like asking, what's your name? And the response being, tacos are good on Tuesdays, or something like that. And maybe they are. But the point is that living in a trailer, this makes me different than other people. In terms of the church environment, I can only think of 4 or 5 other families in the whole church who live in trailers. Everybody else is in a house. And that's a status thing. And that means you've arrived. That means you're important. That means you count, or at least in some sense you do. You've paid your dues. You've done things right. You're a success, or something like that. And I never wanted to attain to any of that stuff. It's like, if that's the only prize you got, I ain't playing the game, because I ain't interested in winning. You got another game? And so when you're living in a trailer, I like to minimize it, because this allows people to feel secure, and it doesn't cost them anything. I'd say, well, I live in Rancho Grande del Gringo. So basically, I'm probably one of the only gringos in here. A lot of Hispanic folks, a lot of good folks, working poor. And, but when I say Rancho Grande del Gringo, what I mean is, I fit into another class. I ain't your upscale suburban. I ain't your middle class success boy. And I like to associate with working poor folks. They seem more honest to me. At least they'll tell you what's up. And so in terms of thinking about your trailer, or your identity, your trailer becomes part of your identity, or your identity is linked in your trailer in some people's minds. To me, it doesn't really make that much difference, because the way I look at it, I'm actually a stranger passing through this world anyhow. I could buy lands and I could have properties if I had lived better and done smart. Right now, I couldn't afford it. No way. But paying a trailer rent month by month is cheaper about by at least a half than the cheapest apartment around here. Cheapest apartment is probably about $600 or $800 a month, I'm guessing, and it goes up from there. This place is about $350 right now, I think, and so it's a high rent for a trailer, and there's nothing beautiful about it. It's not like it's beautifully surrounded by palm trees and blue skies and beaches, something like that. No, but it's not real ratty and junky either. So I think my identity is linked up not with so much my home, but with my ambition. In other words, home to me is a very powerful word, and I don't use it very often. For instance, when I say I'm going back up to Albuquerque, I almost never say I'm going home. However, sometimes when I'm in Albuquerque and I'm saying, well, I'm about ready to go home, meaning here. But this place isn't my true home anyhow. I've lived here for 38 years, and in this same little trailer, by the way, all these years. So I'm showing no upward mobility at all. Just ain't interested in the game, that's all. And there's nothing against anyone who does. If you like nice things, if you want to show some style and class and, live it up and have a nice place, God bless you. That's your head trip. As long as your conscience is clear before the Lord and you don't feel like you're doing anybody wrong, or you can't be convicted of it, at least in a court of law. So Cindy, I don't know exactly how to say, except one of the things I notice is this: when I go visit people in their homes, especially if they've lived there for a long time, I found that there's a spatial set to the rooms such that furniture gets moved around. In other words, people, maybe women more, I don't know, love redecorating and moving the furniture around inside houses. Why they do that? Maybe to achieve a different ambiance in the room, I don't know. Or to showcase one corner, I don't know. But the point is that in a trailer, basically just check that off. You don't have enough room to be that picky unless you want to use real small furniture and move it around. Because there's just not enough room. Behind me is a window. You've seen the blanket hanging there. I hung that blanket up last spring just for this purpose because the sun was shining through so bright. Now I'm thinking to myself, hey, it's getting winter. Give me my blanket back. Because I haven't had this darn furnace working in 2 years. I just used a radiant heater last year, just one of those space heaters. And it's one of those kind that every so often it goes out of whack and it says, I'm overloading, or something goes, bah, and it goes into this overload mode. It'll wake you right up, trust me, right, especially at 1 in the morning. So that's all I was doing, and I was just heating my room on the end where I sleep. Just close the door, heat that room one. Why am I heating the whole house anyhow? Nobody's out here, except me later. And I'll be wearing a coat by that. So in the wintertime, I'll walk around indoors wearing a coat. And not everybody lives that way in a trailer, because a lot of modern trailers have, decent heaters and furnaces and stuff. It's just some things I've noticed as a plumber over the years. Sometimes, I don't know which trailers are good and which ain't, but some of them have some really crappy plumbing. I mean, when you go to work on mobile home quality plumbing, you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, they splurged and built everything out of plastic, including the faucets. And so those faucets aren't even worth working on. Once you identify the thing, you just throw it away and go get a real faucet. Because plastic faucets are worth about what you think they are. I remember 20 years ago, you could go into Sutherland's Lumber, get a kitchen sink faucet for a mobile home, and it was like $12.80. Entirely plastic, including the stuff that looked like chrome. So in mobile home land, what happens is a lot of people end up getting into a trailer, and then if they have a handy man or a handy woman around who can, do some drywall repair, or maybe add in a wall here, or widen that closet there, or hey, we're going to put in a new toilet and change out the bathtub valve, or whatever. A lot of people do changes in kind of like a remodel way, and make mobile homes a little nicer that way, to get them more like to what you call house quality product. Thicker walls where you don't go boom boom and the wall sounds like a huge drum, boom boom. No, there's something to it. It's a solid wall. That's what people want. They want to have a feel of solidity around them. Now, in an earthquake, I don't know how safe a mobile home would be, but I've always thought that houses, especially that had bricks and mortar and a lot of concrete and stuff, especially overhead, would not be necessarily a good place to be in an earthquake. I don't know, but in a mobile home, I think it'd be pretty safe. You're on axles down there. Now, you may not have any air left in your tires, and you may not even have tires down there anymore. I think my tires are gone. But the whole thing's on cinder blocks, so I mean the whole thing could tip. And I don't think it would ever roll. That'd be a pretty fierce earthquake. But things like that don't bother me. I mean, if a trailer gets hit by a lightning, it's grounded, just like a house is. And I don't think there's any special danger by the virtue of the fact that it's metal. But Cindy, if you think you'd like it, the nice thing about mobile homes is it's a little bit like cars. That if you buy a 2024, let's say the brand new series, we'll call it a Camry or something, I don't know. I don't even know what the new numbers are going to be, but I'm going to invent a number like 32,000. But if you can get one that's 6 years old but has low mileage, only say 25,000 on it, you can get a pretty good deal. So the same thing is true with mobile homes. The new ones off the showroom floor are pretty darn pricey. I think 40 to 80 grand. And some of these are double wides. But you can get a several-year-old mobile home that's in actually pretty good condition for maybe, depending on the market, anywhere between 12 and 20,000 probably. And that you could mortgage because it has real value. And so it's probably a good investment, and it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of maintenance, household maintenance, I think, that an ordinary house has. But even if I was in an ordinary house, I probably wouldn't be doing maintenance there either. I'm kind of lazy that way. So anyway, I just thought I'd kind of go over a couple of things. I do like actually having regular viewers, fans. We got the three we've mentioned so far. There may be others. And I just wanted to open this up to you. If you're watching this channel, and like Cindy, you say to yourself, you know, that old goof, he seems to know something about blank blank whatever, or he thinks he does. What do you think about this, Mike? You tell me. What's your perception? You know, I've already given you what I think about Russell Brand. I've already given you what I think about Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump and you know, issues as they arise, and across my mind at least. But what about you? What do you like to think about, and what draws your interest? You know, and maybe we could discuss that. Who knows? Might make some headway. Hopefully, you won't be going in reverse, or at least not very fast. Get yourself something good to eat today. I had a couple of things, and you don't want to eat too much, but by golly, taking a walk is good for you unless your left knee blows out. I was walking along and it's like, what is this thing doing? Started yelling at me like I'd twisted it like crazy, like I'd fallen off a ladder or something. I went, what? So I started gimping, and then I noticed that if I just practice walking carefully and slowly without showing any noticeable limp, about a quarter mile later, that sore thing in my knee basically went away. What was that? I don't know. So go out and watch a UPC sermon on this deal, or go over to Facebook. If you need to find out what Mike Labor considers to be a valid Christian service, you know, including sound preaching, songs, prayers, testimony. Now, one thing I wish there was more of in our church is a time for personal testimony, but you can do some of that stuff in Sunday school, so it's not like it's taboo. It's just we haven't worked it into our congregational setting, and I think that's a weakness of ours. I think there's a place and a time in church for Christian brothers and sisters to stand up and encourage each other as laymen, as we're not the paid expert Christians around here. Expert Christians, yeah. No, we're the regular people, and we still say Jesus loves you. How do I know that? Because he loves so hard, he even loved me. Now that takes some doing. He's that good, and he's better. So buck up, bucko, because however rough things get, he is the leader that the heart yearns for. The heart wakes up and goes, what am I hungry for? Oh, him. He's the centerpiece. He's the center of gravity. He's the one we've yearned for, and we never knew it, but he's helping us remember it, so to speak. We're remembering it in the future. Or something like that. And the best part is, he understands. So if you're trying to make a big decision, place it before him. Say, Lord, you know the best way. What I want to do is I want to let you help me, and you speak so loudly and speak so clearly that even I understand. Remember, you're dealing with someone who's deaf. Remember, you're dealing with someone who can barely see what's in front of his own face. We see through a glass darkly, but insofar as that happens, we see, and we see you. And we want to see more of you, Jesus. And so make these decisions cooperate with the greater goal in our life of being reunited, eye to eye, man to man, embrace the Savior, the real living human King, the God you can walk up and shake his hand. And he shakes back. That's the way it ought to be. You guys have a good day, and God bless. Bye-bye.